K-Wave 6 Radio, your show for all things positive. Hello and welcome to K-Wave 6 Radio. This is Kirk Spencer, your host. I'm entitling this podcast Cognitive Dissonance Part 3A. Reason why I'm calling it 3A is because there were a couple of things that I missed in putting in yesterday's podcast. And I thought they were important enough to add another version to this for today. We're talking about cognitive dissonance, and I came across some thoughts, and I wrote them down and didn't actually put them into the podcast for yesterday. But what I want to talk about here is how we miss things that are right in front of us, and we don't see them. And I'm going to give you basically just a couple of movies that you can see for yourself the messages that came out, and let's just add a book to it. George Orwell's 1984. There have been poets even before his time, during his time, and after his time that have written in poetry. Movies such as the one that came out just a few years ago, Now You See Me. Then there was the one from I think it was in the 80s, maybe even a little bit earlier than that, THX 1138. Or how about the Andromeda Strain, or The Long Kiss Goodnight? We can create a long list of movies and books and all these things that tell us about what has been seen a long time ago. I mean, when I was a child, my father saw that the United States would eventually allow 18-year-olds to vote. At that time, you had to be 21 years old to vote. Then it did become 18. And it's kind of weird, but somebody can tell you what they see in the future, and we just go straight into cognitive dissonance. Oh, that's not going to happen. That can't happen. It won't happen. We have evidence about things from September 11th, 2001. And people, I remember hearing this echo through there. The United States wouldn't do that to its citizens? No way. You're dreaming. Oh, you're just one of those conspiracy theorists. But yet, here's Henry Ford, the founder of Ford Motor Company. He said, quote, "Any man who thinks he can be happy and prosperous by letting the government take care of him better take a closer look at the American Indian." This is coming from Henry Ford. Now, let's take a look at someone else. Let's go to George Orwell, and we're not going to quote him from his book, but we're going to take a quote from him, because the man used to be on radio as well for the BBC, because he was in England. But he made a quote a long time ago that people even nowadays are saying, as one of my friends has said, more of that cognitive dissonance, we're talking about it, was even worse back then, talking about in George Orwell's day. No one believed any of it could happen. Well, okay. How about people today? People today don't want to believe that anything that we see is happening. We go straight into a point of denial, and it's not something I was raised to believe or whatever. His quote is, "The war is not meant to be won." He's talking about any war, basically, the ones that we're living in. But I think he'll get into it a little bit more in just a second. "It's meant to be continuous. Hierarchical society is only possible on the basis of poverty and ignorance. The war is waged by the ruling group against its own subjects and its object is not the victory over either Eurasia or East Asia, but to keep the very structure of society intact. George Orwell. People, you're being distracted, you're going for the distractions, and you're missing the big picture. Your cognitive dissonance is going to lead us all down the rabbit hole, or as George Carlin says, circling the drain on the way into the sewer. Please, people, for your own good, for the good of all mankind, but mostly for yourself, because if you can change yourself, then everything else falls into place. Open your eyes, see what is going on, be aware, be cognizant, and make your life, and then in turn everyone else around you, better. Take care, be well, have a wonderful weekend. Thank you for being a part of our listening audience. Be sure to keep up with our shows and our podcast via our blog, on Twitter, and in Facebook. All links, including our RSS feed, are available at kwave6radio.tk. That's kwave6, the number 6, radio.tk. All the best.